Alright, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. I'm going to be doing some vibe coding for a little bit and see what kind of progress I can make. So I'm trying to set up my music because I've had some difficulties with the copyright material. Whenever I play some music, I keep getting flagged for using copyrighted material. Even when I go to non-copyrighted sources or they claim they're non-copyrighted, I still get flagged for them. So I found a different catalog of non-copyrighted music, so I'm going to try that out. How's it going, Goku? Thanks for tuning in, man. I know it's been maybe about a week or two since I last interacted with you. I hope you're doing well. Hope you've been making some progress on your projects and things are going good. I went live about maybe 2 or 3 other times since I last chatted with you. One thing that I've done recently on this project so far is I refactored the documentation so the AI agent has some refined guardrails to work with. And so that's what I did on the stream last time, was a major refactor so that I can pursue the features that I want to start working on. Yeah, school is back in business for you. That's good. I'm sure that's keeping you really busy. Ah, sweet, man. Well, good luck. I hope you win. I hope you win that hackathon and you could add that to your portfolio and just keep racking up that experience. Yes, sir. Awesome, man. I appreciate that you clicked on the notification. Glad to have you here for however long you're able to stop by. I'll be working on this probably for about an hour. I've got to go meet up with somebody I'm doing some work for. They want me to build a software application for them. Alright, so let's see what we did last time. The most recent thing that we did was a pull request that was called Document Refactor, Intent Engineering Structure for our project. What the document structure now looks like: the repository root now has a Claude Markdown file as the primary entry point for the agent, and the documents folder holds 3 living documents. Those documents are called architecture, agent limits, and invariants. We also included an archived folder, which will contain historical documents for any kind of review that's necessary, and a completed sprint and completed sprint documents. So every time we make a new sprint, we're going to put those. Every time we make a new sprint and then complete it, then we put those documents in the archived folder. Key guardrails are now in place. Claude Markdown establishes the mission and defines 3 working modes: quick fix, refactor, and feature sprint. Each sprint gets some kind of naming convention and a corresponding Markdown doc that is filled out with sections 1 through 7. Before any code is written, the 9 invariants are the non-negotiables. So let's review some of these new documents, starting with the Claude Markdown folder, or file. Simulisten is an iOS application for people who want to learn and vibe at the same time. It plays a learning track and a music track simultaneously, each with a full independent volume and transport controls. Target users are commuters, gym goers, and deep focus workers who layer instrumental music under spoken word content. The dual stream experience is the product. Everything else exists to serve it. The core intent in priority order will be dual playback must always work. It will be independent, predictable, and recoverable. Independent audio tracks, predictable, and recoverable states. The user's queue, positions, and settings are never lost. Content sourcing stays legally clean. No terms of service incompatible providers ever. And user interface stays calm and simple. It's a background listening app, not a social media feed type of application. Instrumental deep focus. All right, this is pretty chill. All right, so the natural next step is the music discovery sprint, picking up tasks 8 and 9 that were deferred from the plus button sprint. Oh, and Goku, if you're still here, by the way, I just want to let you know that I have integrated that plus button right there because of you. So I appreciate you contributing to the project in that way. All right, so the natural next step is the music discovery sprint, picking up tasks 8 and 9 that were deferred from, okay, that makes sense. Would you like to kick off that sprint now by creating the music discovery branch and drafting the sprint document, or do you have a different area in mind first? I want to just take a look at the other documents. Which include the agent limits. All right, this document defines what an agent working in this repository may freely change and what it must not change without explicit documented human approval. Explicit intent means the human has stated the specific change in the current task. A general instruction like fix the bug or polish the UI never authorizes anything in the restricted list. Alright, I'm just going to recap that one more time. So the last thing that we worked on was creating, document refactorization for the AI agent guardrails. prior to refactoring the documentation, there existed only one architecture document which was saturated with information that wasn't relevant to the architecture, and there were sprint documents that I had just started including, but they were not organized in a directory that allows for scaling. So the refactor initiative essentially included a Claude Markdown file, which is in the root directory. Additionally, in the root directory is a documents folder, which holds 3 living documents. Those documents are named architecture, agent limits, and invariants. The architecture document, the purpose for the architecture document is to specify the current architecture, the current state of the architecture, which includes the object graph, which includes an object graph, modules, data flows, life cycle, and persistence. The agent limits markdown file includes rules for safe edits, what the agent can change freely versus what needs explicit human intent. And lastly, the invariance markdown file, its main purpose is to serve as hard constraints. The invariance document contains hard constraints that outrank any task instruction. And then lastly, there is a archived folder within the documents folder which contains historical reviews and completed sprint documents and serve as context only. Alright, so the natural next step for this project is to begin a sprint. So I'm going to talk to my Perplexity agent and say I would like to begin working on the music discovery feature by drafting a sprint document. Based on the deferred items from the prior feature in the current agent workflow, the sprint should focus on 2 primary outcomes: adding music to the universal add content flow and defining manifest tag support for music discovery and curation. The sprint should also stay tightly within the existing guardrails, especially the dual playback architecture, centralized playback control, persistent safety, and music source content curation constraints. That all sounds good so far, except there's a couple things that are really important. The catalog that we end up using should be an appropriate match. And so what makes an appropriate match? There should be sufficient audio files that work in align with the core purpose of this application, which is to serve as background instrumental music. We don't want to have a library that is predominantly music that does not serve a purpose of background music. So like, we want to figure out what catalog we're going to be sourcing. And it hasn't mentioned anything about specific catalogs, and I have a list in the documentation somewhere. So let's go ahead and find that. Architecture. Is it agent limits? No. Architecture. Legal. Let's see. Maybe agent limits. I gotta find which of these new documents contain the information pertaining to the sources we will attempt to use for music for non-copyright TOS compliant catalogs. The document that most directly governs which music sources are allowed is the invariance document. Let's check that out. Background audio compliance. The app plays audio with the screen locked. Okay, that's not. Legal and content sourcing. No terms of service incompatible providers ever. Spotify, Apple Music, Music Kit, Audible, and YouTube are permanently prohibited as audio sources. Their terms forbid mixing their audio with another simultaneous stream, which is the entire product. All right. Given this, well, I'm also curious about the content manifest. Given this, let's consider a few music catalog providers and determine which one we should integrate. Also, let's consider that we may want to integrate multiple source catalogs in the future. So help me define the best way to initialize the infrastructure to support this design. The best way to start is to choose one provider that is legally clean and compatible with your background first discovery user experience, while designing the catalog layer as a provider agnostic abstraction from day one, so additional sources can be added later without rewriting UI or playback flows. Given semi-license constraints, invariance is the governing policy source through invariant 7 and invariant 8, which means any provider choice must avoid prohibited platforms and preserve your music curation rules. Yeah, that sounds about right. Gotta plug my phone in to get charged for the day. It's at 10%. All right, dig.cc Mixter. Let's go to that website. dig.cc Mixter. I guess it's .org. Yep. Okay. Let's type in instrumental. Yeah, I don't like this. So some of these say instrumental, but they're not. This sounds okay so far. This is alright. I could listen to this at a lower volume to some kind of spoken form content. So there is hope. The concern I have is that when I visit cc or dig.cc mixer, the concern is a real product risk, and it suggests that dig.cc mixer should not be treated as a user-facing raw search source in version 1 of this product. The better interpretation is that dig.cc mixer may still be useful as an upstream catalog, but only behind a controlled curation and eligibility layer, because its tagging and community metadata are not reliable enough on their own to guarantee truly non-lyrical background safe results. Recommended architecture. I would advise the architecture direction slightly. Do not build search this catalog directly and show the results. Instead, build ingest from providers, score and review tracks, then expose only approved Simulus and Ready tracks or your own normalized catalog. That sounds a little too complicated, to be honest. I really don't want to have to do that. I don't want to do that. Recommended. So, ingest from providers, score and review tracks. Well, let's explore that pipeline, I guess. Provider metadata filter, require compatibility license, and prefer instrumental ambient style tags. Negative tag filter, rejects tracks with tags or text suggesting vocals Human review queue, manually approve only tracks that actually meet Simulisten's background criteria. Internal manifest flag, store fields like has vocals equals false, background safe equals true, present hints, focus, ambient, and review status equals approved. Provider decision impact. Okay. Next adjustment. I would update the sprint direction so the first implementation target is catalog curated infrastructure, not full provider search UI. Concretely, task 1 should still define preset profile, but the provider work should focus on music catalog provider plus track eligibility evaluator and approved manifest path, so Simulisten can safely support multiple sources later without trusting provider tags too much. So current recommendation is keep the music catalog as a possible source, but do not let its raw instrumental search define the user experience. Simulisten should own the final curation layer. Would you like me to rewrite the music discovery sprint draft so it centers on curated ingestion and approval infrastructure instead of direct provider search? I just don't know how much complexity that's going to create. I'm not sure about your suggestion, given the potential complexity involved in doing so. I am wondering if there may be other catalogs that we could identify with a larger number of appropriate music tracks. Okay, yeah, this music sucks. It's just not good. Oh my gosh, all of this music is just so bad. Tag search. Let's see if there's a better way. Instrument. I'm going to show you what I'm looking at. This is what I'm looking at. I'm basically going to connect my application to a music catalog that is non-copyright, and this DigCC Mixter is one of those catalogs that is non-copyright, so I could use it safely, but the selection of music here is just so saturated with music that doesn't work for the application. So I could do classical if I just select classical.
A friend that you push for a time and a half.
See, the second option has songs or lyrics to it. So, is there a filter here that says no lyrics? Because that's what I want. No lyrics. no lyrics. Is that too much to ask for? Yeah, that's just, I guess it's just not gonna work. Alright, so there might be some other candidates. Two alternatives that stand out. Free Music Archive. Okay, let's take a look at this. Free Music Archive, instant access to independent artists and original music, free to play, download, and share. Search Pro. Is that like a Enjoy FMA? Genre. Instrumental. Search. Alright. Let's please be a one shot. Let's have this first track be an appropriate track. I mean, that's like kind of chill. Maybe not.
J Blank.
Man. They're not good. These are not good. Which of these catalogs would offer the most options of ambient and classical? Are there non-copyrighted TOS compatible options that are dedicated only to classical, ambient, hip hop, etc.? For classical, Musopen is the best. So I guess we can try that. All right, search. That's great. We just want instrumental. Loading. Download music. I just want to play this song. I don't want to look at all the metadata. instruments. Okay, here we go. Yeah, but it says there's licenses here, so I can't use those ones. And it doesn't even pop up anything when I hover the mouse over it, so I'm not really even sure what's going on there. Royalty-free music. But it says they're licensed. I don't know anything about licensing or royalty-free or anything like that. That's why all my YouTube live streams get flagged. I'm already probably triggering YouTube to flag this video because of these audio tracks that I'm playing. Why does it have to be so difficult to find a catalog of non-copyrighted instrumental music? Broad mix catalog. It supports instrumental discovery across many genres. Alright, so apparently Free Music Archive is the best one for ambient. Ambient. We want instrumental. We want ambient. Public domain. Apply filters. Alright, so I guess let's start with Free Music Archive. Alright, so we're going to start with integrating Free Music Archive as our first music catalog, which is a reasonable first choice according to Perplexity, but there's one major constraint we need to account for before implementation. FMA says its old API was shut down. It does not allow hot linking audio hosted on its servers, and without explicit approval, it does not allow apps to forward user search queries to its search engine and scrape the returned HTML. That means we should not build Simulisten as a live client that directly searches from user input in streams. Okay, so FMA's developer guidance says app developers may use FMA music if they host it on their own server and comply. Yeah, see, I'm not gonna do that. We want to stay as lean as possible when building this. We do not want to incorporate unnecessary complexity, but we also don't want to create a foundation that doesn't allow us to scale. If you hosted music yourself, the minimum infrastructure would be a place to store audio files, a way to serve them over HTTPS, and a small metadata layer so the app can search and retrieve track URLs. In practice, that usually means object storage, such as R2, S3, Supabase storage, plus a tiny database or JSON manifest. I'm pretty sure I set up a Supabase storage like in a couple hours, like 2 weeks ago. And then I got a message in my email saying your Supabase storage has not been used and has been paused. So I'm not sure why I even set that up at this point. I forget. I need to check on that. But I don't want to do that right now if I don't have to. I want to stay lean. For a lean Simulus and integration, the ideal provider has 3 properties: searchable catalog, direct file access or streaming that is permitted for applications like mine, and clear reuse terms that do not force you to rehost assets myself. Free Music Archive fails that lean test because it explicitly says no hot linking nor forwarding user search queries to its search engine without approval. What self-hosting would require? If you chose to do it later, the leanest self-hosting stack would look like file storage, cloud object storage bucket for MP3 files, and I believe I'm using Supabase for that, but I'm not sure. I got to double check. But I want to stay lean for right now. If the lean is top priority, which it is, then sources like Internet Archive and Moose Open are more promising to evaluate than FMA because Internet Archive clearly supports searching. I would not spend time building around FMA right now. The lean path is to choose a source that does not require self-hosting, and the next best candidate to investigate on that basis is Internet Archive first. Alright, so let's check out Internet Archive. Internet Archive. But the problem with this is that it might not even be a problem. I just sort of am initially, my anxiety is triggered. Because it has everything. It has movies, software, music, websites. So how are we going to filter instrumental music? Oh my gosh, and some of these just look so horrendous. I don't even want to click on these because they're just going to sound so awful. They're just going to sound so bad. Okay, media type, audio. Filters are good. Subject, instrumental. And I've realized that some of these catalogs, even though they have an instrumental tag, you could still select instrumental and they still play lyrics. So that's annoying. Let's do easy listening instrumental. Please live up to the name of the album. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Let's see if I can turn this down. Yeah, so I'm building a dual audio playback application which will allow for users to select an audiobook or a podcast and then find some kind of background music to play while they listen to the whatever their choice of spoken form content is. So like for me personally, I like listening to some podcasts. Recently, I listened to a vibe coding podcast, and then I'll play some kind of what I've enjoyed doing is playing like lo-fi, deep focus type instrumentals that I'll find on YouTube. There's plenty of them out there, plenty of good sounds that exist for listening as background, like focus music. That's really where this application idea came from. Was I wanted to be able to listen to like a hip hop instrumental while I was going on a run, while I was listening to a book that I had just purchased on like Audible. And I wasn't able to do both. I wasn't able to listen to my audiobook and listen to a hip hop instrumental, or even sort of like a more electronic type of music style. Like if I go coding focus music, like deep focus mix for programmers and coding and stuff like that, zero distractions. Like a lot of these soundtracks are pretty good at being able to exist in the background while you're doing something else. Yeah, I mean that's really like a good question. The proof of concept has been created. You know, I've been able to create an application that plays two audio tracks at the same time. It's pretty simple to do. So the user interface has been something that I've spent a lot of time working on, just being able to have a decent experience, organize the files, and things like that. So I've kind of been going back and forth. I want to be able to integrate catalogs that I don't have to store locally. So right now I'm just creating the infrastructure to do that. And once I have sort of a robust architecture that's really lean and lightweight, because I don't have like a lot of resources to source some really good musics. So I'm basically using all non-copyrighted music catalogs, audiobooks, podcasts. So currently in my application, if you were to go to the content discovery button, which is this blue button here, and then you go to podcasts and you type in vibe coding, and I've already added one, so you see that green check mark. And then I go into my dual player card and go to the podcast player card. It takes a moment to populate. There it is. I go to vibe coding, the engineering of intent, and I select an episode. Then I click play.
Picture this. It is 2 o'clock in the morning on a random Tuesday.
Oh, nothing good ever happens at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Right, never. So,
all right, so the podcast is playing just fine. Now I'm going to go into the music. So these are locally stored, these audio music files. So I'm going to click on this ambient track, and now I'm going to pull up the dual player card again, and I'm going to play that podcast, but then I'm going to play the music to go with it.
there's this senior engineer working at a massively funded logistics startup, and he is just staring at his monitor, which is glowing in the dark, watching his terminal completely light up with 500 errors.
The absolute worst feeling in the world.
It is a total nightmare. It's a cascading failure across the entire network. We're talking thousands of customer orders just failing to process, dropping into the void.
Yeah.
So he's scrambling, right? He manages to trace the error back to a very specific block of code in a caching layer. And the crazy thing is, the code itself looks fine. It's perfectly formatted.
It's probably quite elegant.
So that was one form of, like one kind of mood that you can get from music. I also have a hip-hop track that I've personally enjoyed listening to. So I'm going to play the same podcast, but this time I'm going to play the hip-hop track. So hip-hop, I select the track. I'm going to continue to play the podcast now.
Actually,
Exactly. It's elegant. It passed all the automated tests during the build. But here's the terrifying part. When he runs a Git blame to see, who pushed this ticking time bomb into production,
his own name is on it.
his own name is right there on the commit. He's the author of the code. But as he sits there sweating at 2 in the morning, looking at the variables and the logic loops, he had absolutely no idea what this code actually does.
It is the defining nightmare.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. I'm really early in the journey, so I'm hoping that I stay consistent. I'm only on for a short time today, but I thought it would be good to just put that effort in. Most of what I'm doing is catching up with a refactor project that I did. I had a lot of refactoring that I needed to do on my documentation, like the markdown files that basically act as the guardrail for the AI agent. I haven't even prompted my Claude code agent to write any code so far since I've gone live. Most of what I've done is just trying to make sure that my intent for engineering this project is just more robust. And I'm trying to think through how I'm going to integrate this music catalog. But thanks for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to wrap up here in just a few moments because I do have to be somewhere in 40 minutes. So I'm going to try to get to a stopping point. And I guess what that stopping point is going to be is defining what the sprint document looks like. So I think what I mentioned last was we're using Internet Archive. And we're searching up instrumental music. We want it to be an audio type, instrumental. Okay, yeah, I was looking at this easy listening Bonneville radio. This was not that good. Okay, I think I need to be less concerned about how good these options are because they're probably all just going to be bad. I need to not be so concerned about that. I went on Internet Archive and it looks like they have a lot of options for content. I want to make sure that we filter only for the music we are looking for. We are generally looking for. How will we approach doing that with Internet Archive? How does this provider, what does this provider offer us such that we can integrate it into our lightweight / lean approach for, I already said integrate, so what does this provider offer us so that we can integrate a lightweight lean, integrate it into our lightweight lean approach for building the foundation of music selection. All right, we got to wrap this up. How long have I been live? I've been live for about an hour. That's good. Internet Archive fits your lean approach much better than Free Music Archive because it gives you structured search, item metadata, and file listings without requiring you to host the audio yourself. That means Simulisten can build a lightweight catalog layer on top of Internet Archive search and metadata APIs, then filter aggressively in-app so users mostly see background-safe instrumental candidates rather than full noisy archive. That's great. What it offers: search across collections, metadata per item, file listings for each item. Okay, a practical first pass filter, the stack would be restrict to media type audio, prefer curated sub-collections such as net labels rather than all audio, search metadata fields like title, subject, and description for terms that align with your presets such as ambient, instrumental, drone. That's strange. I don't know what that preset is. Let me try searching for that. Drone. I've never heard of a music category called drone. Wasp drone, flying drone. That is the most bizarre. Why would it mention drone? I don't know. I mean, if it's anything other than like the sound of a drone, that sounds like a hickory-do. Hickory-do instrument. Didgeridoo. I almost said the wrong thing. Didgeridoo. That sounds like a didgeridoo. Alright, I'm not gonna try to make that sound. Alright, exclude obvious mismatch terms like vocal, spoken word. I'm starting to get a little anxious because I do have to go. This is exactly where I want my stopping point to be, but I want to produce some kind of draft. My recommendation is to start with the internet. Yes, I gotcha. Yep, I know why. The first sprint task should be, would you like me to draft a concrete search heuristics and initial query for... Yes, I would. I would like to revise the sprint document draft and include concrete search heuristics and initial query profiles for those music styles. All right, let's listen to some music. I want something that just pumps me up. She's Homeless instrumental. What could that possibly sound like?
I think we've all heard this one.
This would not be a good song to use for this. just realized that was way too loud. I apologize. Apologize about that. Oh my god, that was horrible. I'm so sorry. Heuristics. That was a very bad song, and I played it very loud, so I apologize about that. I need to not get so caught up in how good these are, because they're not good. They're just not good. I mean, it's possible that there's some good ones in there, so we just need to do this. We just need to get this. We just need to accomplish this. All right, we got to wrap this up. For the sprint documents, we need to always include a status for the doc itself and the individual tasks such that we update them per their completion. Yes, rewrite it. Yes, rewrite the full markdown file Here's a full written documentation. That's great. That is terrific. Okay. Let's now create this branch and sprint document. Let's now move forward with creating this branch and sprint document. I'm going to return later to this for review and will potentially modify it. I just wanted to set up this branch and draft sprint document to make a little progress for today. Oh, we already have a branch. already have a sprint document as well. Docs. Okay. It looks like we already have a sprint document as well. Oops. Let's provide Claude CLI with a prompt to update this document, given the context of our conversation. Dear Claude Code, we need to update a document. And let's use Fable. Read the full doc sprint music catalog integration in full before making any changes, then update that existing sprint document to reflect the decisions and directions from today's discussion. Modify the existing file in place. Do not create a new sprint document. Do not create a new branch. Preserve the overall sprint. Preserve the overall spirit of the sprint, but revise the provider strategy, task structure, and task details to match the updated direction. Keep the document concise but complete. Keep it as a live progress tracker. Okay, I trust that this will be good. All right, yeah. All right, Fable. Hooray, we actually used an AI agent today to write code. Well, we're writing a markdown file, which isn't specifically any source code, but all right, that's going to be it for today. We'll let that finish, make sure that it produces the results that we're looking for. And in the meantime, let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, I guess I'm just using it as a crutch at this point because I have to go, and I don't want to return back to this project and not be able to the de- not be able to preserve the ideas that I've had thus far, because a lot of it is just kind of like spontaneous, and yeah, I don't know. It may or may not be helpful for me. Okay, so invariants were dropped from the current sprint document. There's no invariant 4 entry and no invariant 6 entry. That means your earlier concern was correct. The rewritten sprint document preserved most of the invariant set, but it no longer explicitly carries forward the audio session constraint, the persistence durability constraint. Given this, sprint touches provider integration, catalog UI, recommended fix. Add these 2 rows back into the constraint invariant section. Why did that happen? In constraints, restore the missing 2 invariants. In the completion criteria section, update the invariant list so it includes invariant 4 and 6. Why did it get rid of that? Include in the prompt to also explain its reasoning for not including invariant 4 and invariant 6. Update the file. In constraints, restore. This wording asks Claude to separate the edit from the reasoning about the omission, which is useful because the current file clearly includes, but not 4 or 6. In invariant 4 and 6, I need to see what those are. Invariant 4, background audio compliance. The app plays audio with the screen locked and the music in the background. And invariant 6 is user content and settings are never lost or corrupted by routine updates. After edit, provide. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I understand now. I understand.
Sexo, cocaína e assassinato.
Alright, so we've reached a stopping point. We've asked the AI model to help us get to that stopping point, and what I'm doing as sort of a final touch is asking for Perplexity to provide me with a prompt so that I can start a fresh context window when I come back. And the very next thing I want to work on, well, the very next thing I want to do before I start working on anything is perform a high-level review of the newly revised sprint document, so that way I can make sure that the sprint so that I can make sure that the sprint document actually aligns with the goals that I have. Because I might not be able to think of everything right now that I might run into as a roadblock down the line. Okay, here's the prompt. I'm gonna go ahead and start that prompt right now. Claude Sonnet 5, I can use that now. All right, we'll do that. We'll turn on thinking, and we'll connect GitHub. All right, that's gonna be it. I'll be back maybe later today, or yeah, I'll probably be back later today. I'm not sure. I might do some video editing later instead. Alright, that's gonna wrap it up for today. I will be on later.